we're going to move on to public comment. This is going to be public comment on consent, including any contested consent items as well as closed session items. Each speaker is going to have 3 minutes. When you come up, please state which agenda item you're going to be speaking on.
My name is Manuel Lagaras Torres. I'm a policy advocate with Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, and my comments are regarding item 2Y on the consent calendar, the ordinance regarding the prohibition of encampments in public spaces. We would like to reiterate that according to Government Code 8899.50, the city has an obligation to take meaningful actions that firmly further fair housing and all housing-related programs. If this ordinance is adopted, the city should develop more policies and programs that show a commitment towards providing resources and affordable housing options to the unhoused community. For example, Goal 7, quote, prevent displacement and homelessness in the July revised draft housing element. It should be further reinforced by adding additional workshops that directly engage with the in-house community. Specifically, the city should develop programs for the in-house community that focus on mental health services by providing mental health outreach services that to the community and trainings that inform the public on how to deal with the family members who have severe mental health needs, collaborating with the county to create a program that offers mental health services beyond 60 days to ensure residents have the support they need to stay in secure housing, create free sober living with job trainings and housing to for navigation for the year, focus on community care by utilizing mobile bus showers that are deployed throughout the city, open detox centers that allow an individual to stay 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without a 10-day limit in order for them to seek assistance any time of the day or night, and civic engagement opportunities by creating an advisory board of an oversight committee with diverse stakeholders that include a majority of individuals that work directly with the in-house community for accountability and transparency regarding the decision-making process for all homelessness funds. This ordinance is not the solution towards dealing with homelessness here in the city, and without community-informed policies and programs and funding committed for the in-house community, we won't see an end to the housing crisis here in Fresno. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Des.
So, thank you. Good morning to everybody. Something I've been coming up here talking about a lot, and that's the drugs in Fresno. Inside the homes and outside the homes. And I'm getting a little sick and tired of everybody blaming just the homeless. So I did a little searching, and I came upon some data from the Fresno County, and I want to pay respect right now to the people that died from an overdose here in Fresno. Each marble will be for each individual that died on our streets. There's one on the floor.
Thank you. Up next is Orlando Watson Sr. Orlando Watson Sr.
And one from the floor. Please do not disrespect
Good morning,
the
Mr.
dead
Watson. You
when
have
do
3
that,
minutes.
But don't disrespect the dead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm addressing the Heart team.
Can you speak a little bit closer so we can hear you better? Thank
I'm
you.
addressing the Fresno Heart team and their approach to the homeless people. They're outside of the spectrum of, I believe, their duties, and they're taking all of our stuff. And if I was to have to rely on any paperwork, I wouldn't have it because they take everything. They took everything from us over and over and over. And I just want to address how are we to combat that. That's it.
Good morning. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, good morning. My name is Wes White. I'm with the Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union, part of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, National Union of the Homeless. Also the NAACP Political Action Chair in Monterey County. Checking in today about 2Y, the ordinance that is going to cite and arrest people just for being on public property. You know, the Supreme Court case and the governor's executive order doesn't make it right. You know, what you're doing is selling out people, and you're making blood money. You're domestic terrorists if this passes. This should not be the way to go. You already know there's nowhere for people to be. And so what are you trying to do? You're burying them alive, killing them right at that moment. You're going to cite them. This is like the 13th Amendment right here. You're just going to take away their rights and put them in jail, and now you can make money off them. They're human beings. They actually have inalienable rights, according to our Constitution, that cannot be taken away from. They deserve life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, food, clothing, shelter, running water, and electricity. You know, even in Steinbeck days, the government offered housing and it had running water. And nowadays, it's just get out. No, you're not allowed anything. People should be afforded 400 square feet and a structure. That's 20 feet by 20 feet of personal space that they need to maintain, be environmental stewards of their land. You offer the opportunity for minimal health and safety standards, organized space where trash, pee, poo, and food are in its place. You got to allow people to have kitchens, so barbecue pits, generators, so they can have electricity. You want them to be functioning, productive members of society, but you take every tool away from them, even the right to exist. And it's not right. You already know it's not right. You need to be stopping the sweeps. You need to stop driving people out of wherever they're at. They need to live. Are you supporting people or are you trying to kill them? Because it's an extractive culture that we're in. It's all about money. You might be colonizing, but you're not civilized yet. You got suits and ties on, seem professional, but where's your attitude of love? Where's your attitude of public service? Is this just a business? You're killing people. Domestic terrorism. Stop it.
Thank you. Up next is Sean McPherson. Good morning, Sean. Please identify the item you wish to speak on, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
It's about the 2Y.
Okay, thank you.
First of all, I have the most admiration and respect for all of you up here and all the complexities involved with the decisions you make. I can't even imagine. This 2Y thing is simply not going to work. I've been homeless for like 12 years or something like that, and things like hygiene facilities and food and shelter were used to trick me. I feel like I got played, you know. You guys use food and shelter and hygiene facilities to trick me into now it's illegal for me to be outside. You know what I mean? So now it's not only legal, I'm being forced into a conservatorship, which I don't feel is going to work. Just for the simple fact that you have to have a substantial amount of trust and confidence in the people that are going to be rehabilitating you But we were tricked into this, you know what I mean? And it's just not going to, nobody's going to be for it. It's not going to work, you know what I mean? And I was just thinking, like, this forced conservatorship, what about people's pets? What about their family members that are sick and old? What about their jobs? What about their lives? You know what I mean? All that's got to be put on hold. So we'd be forced to do a program. You guys, there's not a program in history that's 100% effective. You can't name one. It's never happened, right? Well, they're going to keep 100% of us until we complete these programs. You know, and it's just not going to work. You know, it's just sad. It's going to be lost to Fresno. It's just sad. It's very sad. And man, I got so much more to say. I'm lost up here, but yeah, this forced conservatorship, it's just not going to work. And yeah, I feel like we've been exploited. You up here, all you guys up here, you guys wouldn't be able to do what you do every day without access to food, shelter, and hygiene facilities. I mean, you guys wouldn't be able to operate you can't even live a life without being able to stay clean and eat and have some type of security. And it's sad that those are things that were offered to us and to turn around to make it illegal for me. Now I can't now I can't be outside on the sidewalk because I've utilized these facilities. You mean, now I'm documented homeless, so I'm going to be forced to go to jail because I utilize things that I should be entitled to as a human being. You know, it's sad, you know what I mean? And I just don't feel like it's going to work, you know what I mean? It's not going to work.
Thank you. Up next is Sting.
Hi, Gary. Let me just start off by giving a shout out to Des for that extremely powerful demonstration. Unfortunately for y'all, having 6 cops escort me out of these chambers wasn't enough to intimidate me out of coming back. Anyways, I think that the over 4 hours of public comment on the 29th and everyone here today has made it abundantly, painstakingly clear where your constituents stand on the sit, lie, sleep ordinance. Yet, you continue to ignore the voices of the people you were elected to represent. Whether it's here at City Hall or over at the Board of Supervisors, no matter the issue at hand, our officials have made it disgustingly clear that they don't give a crap about what we have to say. Don't worry, I've been cleaning my foul mouth. You've been told why this ordinance won't work, why it's inhumane, and how it will actually cost the taxpayers more to implement this than actual effective strategies such as the Housing First model in Houston. Yet you continue to ignore us and attempt to cause division by insisting that dropping an F-bomb somehow overshadows the work of other advocates that you say you do listen to. Well, we all know how much you love lying to our faces. All of those advocates you named are still in these chambers. If you were actually listening to and working with them, they'd have no reason to be wasting their time here. You complain about your constituents screaming at and attacking you, but what you seemingly fail to realize is that the public outrage is born from your own actions. Plot twist, your actions have consequences. If you actually did your jobs, we wouldn't have to scream at and attack you. We, the people, have 4 demands for you. 1, vote no on the sit, lie, sleep ordinance. 2, work with the community members to implement community-based solutions. 3, use emergency funds from the city to get every person who goes through a sweep a motel voucher. And 4, families with children should be sheltered within 2 hours in a long-term shelter. I just want y'all to know, while you're sitting up here blinded by your greed and hunger for power, that we're going to recall, remove, and vote out every single one of you who votes yes on this ordinance. If you don't reflect the will of the people, you are not fit for this council. Also, I saw you posted me on your Facebook, Gary. You want me so bad, but baby girl, I'm out of your league.
Up next is Alex Laffey.
I'm here today to oppose the fascist ordinance that is trying to be passed. And if you don't agree that being punished for sitting or standing in public space is fascist, then we must have a different ideas of what a free country should look like. The narrative here is that this will only apply to encampments, but this law is very plainly written. No sitting, no standing, and public property. This is purposely written this way, so not only can you criminalize being unhoused, but that you can remove anybody from public that does not meet your agenda. Slapping these ordinances on the most vulnerable members of our community does not solve our issues. Homelessness is a symptom of a dysfunctional society. Unsure of what to do? Start listening to your constituents. 4 hours in June and no one listened to them. That's actually just so disrespectful to your constituents. I cannot believe that. There's 37 e-comments online that basically all say the same thing repetitively. So many ideas that are here. you could have your meetings in the afternoon so people can actually attend instead of scheduling them in the morning so people can't come. I took off time to be here. I took off time. I'm not being paid to be here because apparently I care more than the people who are paid to be here. I've heard complaints from city council that are tired of being screamed at. Well, listen to your people. We would not be here all the time complaining. It's that simple. You are public servants. You will respect us. You will listen to us. And we will recall anybody that votes yes to this. That's it.
Bob McCloskey.
I just want to say that this is overly broad. I notice Mr. Jentz is not here, but it says any person may not sit, sleep, lie, I guess, be anywhere on a public place, a park or otherwise. Meaning that someone like me, a journalist reading a book under a tree, could be accosted by the police thinking I might be homeless. What this does is give complete power to the police on how to judge who's homeless and who's not. You know, I wear my jeans and I get mistaken for homeless sometimes. So these things in my gear when I go out and help, but these things are something you have to think about. That'd be a serious court case there, you know, somebody like myself. 73-year-old man gets accosted by the police, may not have their ID on them, because you're not required to carry your ID around at any time under the law, and you're not required to identify yourself to the police unless you're under suspicion of some kind of crime. I don't believe it's a crime to lay in the park and read a book if you're an average Joe citizen. So those kind of cases may come up. Mr. Arias and others have brought up $400 million spent on services and shelter by, you do the math, by 4,000 people, that's 100 grand per year. I mean, 100 grand over probably a 4-year period, I'm thinking, since 2020. When you started getting all those state and federal funds, those were not city funds. Those were funds that need to be audited. We need to figure out where all this money went. So 100 grand per person over a 4-year period, of course, 25,000 a year could certainly house somebody. Now you want to lock people up for 35,000 a year. We talked about shelter services consistently with Miguel and other Congress and other council people brought it up here, that Turning Point and other providers are not doing a good job of getting people help, getting them what they need to get off the street. It's going to be costly to enforce, and I would still argue that it has racist implications. Reverend Floyd Harris has called it Mississippi Fresno for a reason. It's one of the poorest and racially divided on economics city anywhere, and we all know that the prisons are full of people who are not white. People on the streets are disproportionately represented. Indigenous people are twice as represented on the streets as they are in the national census. African Americans, black people are twice as represented in the national census.
Up next is James M.
Twice as represented in the national census.
James M.
You need to keep that in mind.
Please come up to the mic. Thank you. Good morning, James. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, hi. I'm just here in opposition against this ordinance with the homeless matter. To me, it doesn't make any sense. Why are we wasting our efforts on this matter, which is clearly targeting people who are struggling on a daily basis? It seems to me like you're putting up a facade, like you're addressing an issue and doing something about it, but really you're just perpetuating it. I'm here to support everybody here. I'm not affiliated with anybody. All I want to do is show that I care about people, you know? You should too. You know, we've filled up the jails before with nonviolent offenders. What'd we do? We released them. That's a wasted effort. That's all.
Up next, Kevin Little.
Since this matter was on the consent calendar and there were no objections to it, perhaps many of the folks here in this room don't realize, but this has already essentially been approved and has been enacted. This law is ill-conceived. We've already spoken at the last meeting about our substantive opposition to it, but I'd like to spend some time today talking about the practicalities of this law. First of all, this law is vague and overbroad, and it's going to be subject to legal challenges by the ACLU and other organizations. It's going to cost the city lots of money to defend that. It's going to very likely require the city to pay $250,000 or more in attorney's fees, like it did for the homeless advocacy ordinance that got overturned. Also, with respect to this law, it's clearly vague and unenforceable. It also doesn't have a plan, because we all know, each one of you sitting here knows, that there are inadequate resources. The ordinance provides that officers will have the discretion to refer people to resources, but we know those resources don't exist. So are people going to be arrested simply because there's nothing to refer them to? And that would be the height of arbitrariness. Furthermore, all property is treated the same. Many of the unhoused who are on the street have property that they simply cannot be separated from. Medicines that they need to maintain their mental health, medicines that they need to stay alive, paperwork that they need to get benefits. And if they're arrested and their property is deprived of them, very likely they won't be out and available to reclaim those matters and items in 60 days. Long story short, we're creating a mess, and law enforcement is not prepared to enforce this ordinance. There's been no training on how to exercise the enormous discretion that they have under this ordinance. And people like me in the court system are going to have to clean up the mess that this ordinance creates. Thank you.
Up next.
Good morning, Council, Mayor Dyer, and Council President. My name is Cindy Pembino. I'm with Fresno Homeless Union, and I'm also Ministry Coordinator with Christ Helping Hands through Fresno Church. I'm in total opposition of this ordinance. To why? It's inhumane. Bottom line, it's inhumane. It's a violation of the 8th Amendment. Also, what a reflection of hate that it shows to others, especially nationwide. This is a reflection of our city. You know, my own grandkids, 2 of them came up here last council, 2 great grandkids. The boys came up, they talked. My 10-year-old granddaughter helps at Outreach. She's asking me, where are they going to go, Grandma? What's going to happen to them? Where do they go? I don't know what to tell them. Do something. That's what the governor said. Have you guys all seen that in the media, on the news? He said, do something. And this is what we're doing? It's not acceptable. This is going to, like Kevin said, this is going to cost a lot of money. It's going to cost you taxpayers a lot of money. And I'm going to state the facts again. There are over 50% of our homeless are over 50. They are frail and they are disabled. Our families, our vets are off limits. Please do not ever cuff a vet or cite them. They fought for this country. That's humiliating. We need to build affordable housing. We know it's a fact also that Fresno is behind on building affordable housing. I say that we get some safe camps up in some, we got a lot of land out there. Let's figure it out, Fresno. Also, let's use, like it got spoken, let's use those emergency funds. When you pull people off the street, let's use those funds to put them into a motel. Speaking from experience, I know that the way the police treat our unhoused, and having been a victim of that myself, my concern is, are you just gonna, like it got mentioned, are you gonna hurdle them off the streets like cattle? That's what the talk is. There's no talk about compassion. When I hear compassion up here, I'm not seeing it. The definition of compassion is a sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortune of others. And I'm in total agreement to open that shelter. I see a lot of dogs out here on the streets. We need to open that shelter and get it right with all these rescues and these organizations. God bless you all, and God bless this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Nancy Donut.
Good morning. I want to thank you all for working on behalf of our city. I do believe that we all really do want the very best for our city, including our citizens who are houseless. While I want to assume that this ordinance in general is geared to helping our city and the houseless, I am concerned about the implementation of this ordinance. It feels short-sighted and a poor Band-Aid to a deep and multifaceted problem. I'm concerned about the profiling of certain individuals. I'm concerned about the right that we all have to sit and rest and enjoy a park bench. If indeed those who are houseless will be jailed or fined, I'm concerned about the capacity of our jails and potential abuses that could happen in this process. I've never met a homeless person who has $500 or $1,000 in their back pocket to pay for the fine. Our mental health facilities are already limited in their capacity to help our general population. So if you're an inpatient in behavioral health and get discharged and don't have a place to go, you're given a resource list of homeless shelters for where you can go. So it feels like this is a revolving door that won't be helpful. I do believe, though, that we have the capacity to help our houseless population and would encourage the council to get curious in finding sustainable solutions versus just trying to sweep the houseless population away. The cost of housing, the lack of affordable housing, barriers to housing, inflation, these are the issues that need to be addressed. If the money allotted to the police department to round up the houseless could be poured into attacking these root problems, these root issues, and preventing individuals from becoming homeless, we'd be further along in solving this problem. I want to urge you to vote no on this ordinance. I urge you to listen to the community of homeless individuals and advocates, involving them in the process of solving the problems. Please work with community members to implement community-based solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Ms. 5250.
Ms. 5250, D3 resident. Crazy for justice. And what I'm noticing right off the bat is no one can see, no one listening at home can see the people that are speaking. So I consider that one more point where you guys are trying to silence our voices. You don't want to see how many people, you don't want everyone watching to see how many people are here in opposition to this bill. You don't want our signs to be seen on the TV or be made part of the public record. And that is just despicable. Just as despicable as this Y2 ordinance, sit, sleep, stand, where you're not allowed to be in the public spaces anymore. We're allowed to be in public spaces. And in the public spaces right out in front of your homes, we will be protesting these unconstitutional ordinances. How can you guys think that an untrained officer that doesn't know the Constitution, that doesn't even know our First Amendment rights, is going to respect our Fourth Amendment rights? Because they don't do it on a daily basis. And you guys have access to the proof every single day on the body cams that you guys have access to see how these officers are treating people. You have access to see what is going on front and center in these sweeps, and all of the documentation and things that they're throwing away. They're throwing away the Obama phones. They're throwing away federal documents. Our police officers are being paid to throw away resources that just have to go, they have to go out and reobtain. And it's a cycle that you're perpetuating, and how you don't see that is, I do not understand. And I would like to also call out the churches that could be opening up their parking lots as safe lots. There's a lot of working homeless out there that could use a safe place to park at night or during the day when they're not utilizing those parking lots. They could have trustee type, people in charge of these camps that are out there, and the safe camps like Des was running. You guys should be familiar with people that are chronically homeless out there, that people are newly homeless, and people that could easily get out of homelessness if they had a safe lot to park in, where they didn't have to worry about their stuff or getting hassled by the cops, getting their vehicle towed away. Because now they're worse than they started off. There's places that won't hire you if you don't have a car.
Thank you. Up next is Linda Tubach.
I came here this morning hoping to have my say and hopefully having some influence in our democratic process when it comes to passing this heartless ordinance. And what happens? I find out that it's part of the consent calendar, and none of you has the courage to pull it for further consideration. Really disappointing. So, like many speakers have mentioned before me, I think you need to get ready for the lawsuits on this one. I'm horrified that you would all unanimously agree to scapegoating the most vulnerable of our population, a tiny fraction of our population, less than 1% of our population, for Fresno's quality of life issues. I do all my shopping in Fresno, of course, and I know business owners are complaining to you about unhoused people congregating in their parking lots for shade. These are the constituents that you apparently care about who are calling you, and indeed we're represented at the last meeting by 2 security guard services. Meanwhile, the vast majority of your constituents, like me, object to this ordinance, and we realize that, in fact, you're the ones responsible for dispersing Fresno's unhoused community into the shopping centers for shade, especially during the summer. This is the only place now where they can go to get shade. And how did this happen? You've destroyed all the encampments, including Des's Safe Camp, which is a proven alternative and is the kind of solution that you need to be embracing. Instead, you seem to be content with adding a few beds here, a few low-income units there, when there is a need in the thousands to address these problems. You need to start setting up safe camps. You need to start doing rent subsidies. And I call upon Mayor Dyer to veto this. He's been to Austria. He knows what the solutions are. He knows that it's social housing and rent subsidies, and not criminalizing the most vulnerable people, pandering to a small slice of our population, the store owners who are upset about the dispersal of the homeless population in our community. I think it's obvious what you need to be doing.
Okay. Next we have lethal.
Instead of preventative steps like livable wages and affordable housing, people are being smacked with debt jail and sweeps that prolong their homelessness. Carbasi, upset about affordable senior and student housing earlier, calling it important, I believe, is great, but you did vote for this anti-homeless ordinance, so make that make sense. Dyer called us ignorant, misled, and stated we hold grudges. Until you've walked in my docks on the streets and fields meeting and helping people, don't even think about trying to turn the narrative into us being the ignorant ones. We are the ones taking time out of our day to listen and to serve the community. You think I want to stand here and be asking you to do your job and the right thing? We pay you for all this lack of transparency and the blatant disregard for our public commenting. It was said that thousands were sheltered, but I bet that's just the revolving door of funding from people being brought in and kicked right back out by abusive staff at the shelters. Every time you get a body in a room, you get funded. Dyer said it's time to hold our unsheltered population accountable, referencing to supposed resources being offered, regardless of bed space in Fresno, is what he meant. This is slander on the street family. Go and talk to them and hear how they are not actually being offered wraparound services. Stop playing with me. Jan said he is directing his prosecution team to not engage in any plea bargaining with unhoused people who are arrested under the city's anti-camping ban and to seek maximum prison sentence for unhoused people. Glad to see you're personally getting asses in beds. This is proof Fresno does mean to criminalize the unhoused and allow them to be lost in the U.S. prison system to be slaves for 13 cents an hour. People deserve a second chance at sleeping in a bed and not in a jailed one. You should be ashamed of being so cold and hateful. Arias said County of Fresno operates a $4 billion safety net system that only produces 120 beds, while the City of Fresno, a $2 billion organization with 900 beds. That's not enough beds, for one. For two, we deserve an itemized list of how this money is being spent. Because there was $17 million in 23-24 fiscal year for housing support, addressing how to house people, creating pathways to permanent housing stability. This year, another $10.9 million for housing support. You can prove to Fresnans what you did. I need you to prove to Fresnans what you did with that money because I barely see it. Show us what you're doing with the people's money. It belongs to us, not trips to Germany that nothing comes out of, not PD, and certainly not Gary's dollar box die.
Okay. Next, we have Sean Zweifler.
Thank you for your time. I'm here to speak out against this cruel and ineffective policy. The city has already tried this. You have tried harassing, sweeping, moving around, throwing away people's stuff, and we all know that's a failed policy. We've seen, when the city shoved everyone down into Chinatown. We've seen when the city shoved everyone out of there. We've seen people moved around this city, and all it did is make people's lives worse. All it did was rack up police, the police budget, the court budget, your legal fees. And so, you, after a brief period, which is commendable, of expanding shelter space and creating transitional housing, the city has decided to return to the criminalization and institutionalization path. This is, once again, cruel and inhumane. You have decided it's better to spend money on police, courts, and institutionalization instead of shelter and services. This is financially irresponsible. I also want to speak on how this ordinance affects everyone in the city, not just the unhoused. You're turning everyone in the city into a criminal, including yourselves. Public space extends to city council chambers. So, you guys, everyone sitting in here is technically, opening themselves up to a year-long sentence in jail. This is incredibly corrosive to society by making everyone into a criminal and, creating a situation where you're leaving it up to an officer's discretion. This is discriminatory and arbitrary. We know that this will be used to target the most vulnerable members of society. We know that this will be used against, the people that the city views undesirable. This is incredibly dangerous, and I believe you're pursuing this path, in a flippant manner. And it's time to sit down, come up with some real solutions, because there are real solutions out there. We all need to know that that needs to happen. But this is not the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Brandy, and after Brandy, we're
Dear
going to...
Council, I'm asking for bold action today, and that means pulling aside them, and instead of passing this ordinance, to step back, truly listen to the community, and finally bring those with lived experience to the table in a substantive way, along with the community, to assess what has been done and what can be done to address the complex issues of people being unsheltered in our street, and make this successful for them, including addressing the problems that you're trying to mitigate. Now is the time to do things differently, and I'm putting my faith in you that you will, as you've done other good actions like the senior housing before. During the years of talking with those who are unhoused, I've heard so many well thought out solutions to reduce homelessness and address things, as well as informed critiques about what needs to change. When organizations like the Human Trafficking Prevention Organization, Justice Coalition speaks up to say why this ordinance is harmful, I too am troubled by how you have chosen not to truly listen and dismiss our community at the last meeting, suggesting that they don't know or understand enough to weigh in, and how the mayor dismissed so many people in our community saying that they are misinformed or do not have good reasons. But I ask that you listen now. And believe you, those who are opposed to this aren't a monolithic group, but your constituents from many backgrounds. People may not know every program and the numbers, but can know how harmful this ordinance is, as they shared, including the fact that Jans is wanting to prosecute people to the greatest extent of the law. If the city is claiming that Heart treats people compassionately in front of people who are just brutalized, how can we believe that the council and mayor's narrative of people refusing services, as you say, are the targets of the ordinance? Now is the time for compassion and to recognize that this will harm everyone who is homeless. If Arias and the council have been listening to that house, you have taken action to hold Heart accountable, because it's not only violating their rights, but impeding our efforts to get people off the streets. And if you listened, that you would understand how and come up with solutions for services like Fresno Housing has regarding the shelters and having a grievance system. But you can act differently. Regarding criminal activity, you have laws in place to address those. You can focus on the demands that have been brought forward, look at Tulare Safe Camp, and focus on housing first. Fresno does have a responsibility to ensure adequate housing, as California Housing and Community Development states that since 1969, California has required all local governments to adequately plan for the housing needs, and we are 90,000 short of housing from very low to moderate, and that this is the greatest reason for why people are unhoused. It takes a lot of effort to get affordable housing, and you ask for patience, so I ask for the same patience with those who are trying to get off the streets, to be able to in the efforts to as you're trying to find more housing, and recognize that this is going to be a slow process, but you need people at the table. We've had, especially as we have a lot invested, so that we can be one.
Thank you, Brandy. Up next is Josefa.
I'm a resident of D7, Josefa Vega. This ordinance, as many have mentioned already, is intentionally vague. It has zero outline of what the process between responding to the presence of individuals and then moving them to jail would look like. What is, however, made clear is that Fresno Police Department is being empowered to use their full discretion to enforce the ordinance. FPD has proven time and time again to violate resident civil rights by utilizing excessive force, and has proven to be a biased body. Cop in Power, Jerry Dyer, has gone to great lengths to further criminalize community members by also, in addition to endorsing Prop 36, which means fewer individuals being rehabilitated and instead being shut away in jail. I ask that you vote no on 2Y and no on Prop 36.
My name is Sofia Sanchez, and I work in downtown Fresno, and I'm here today to urge you not to pass consent item 2Y. Low wages, high cost of housing, rapid inflation, eviction, and gentrification have caused a lot of us to live without a safe, stable house over our heads. Over 50% of Fresno renters are spending over a third of their monthly income on rent. And throughout my work with Power California, I've met a lot of young individuals like myself who have maintained 2 to 3 jobs just to live in the hood. A lot of us are just trying to survive, and are small business owners who are one paycheck away from being homeless. Many of my friends are victims of having an unsafe housing situation, and greedy landlords who have even gotten to the point of blackmailing them. We all belong in Fresno. You City of Fresno elected leaders must view housing as a human right and must understand that the ordinance must not be passed because the language is vague and has no clear language for implementation, review, funding, or accountability. To support our unhoused community, the city must provide emergency housing like motels, and we need to come up with solutions for the unhoused community with them and not with the interests of special interest groups. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Crystal.
I'm Crystal, and I would like to talk about the new facility that you guys are trying to get and place all the homeless people at over there in Elkhorn, Carruthers. Yeah, so if you place all the unhoused people over there, how are they going to get back to Fresno for their doctor's appointments? Nobody's going to be able to. We already called Medi-Cal. They're not going to be able to transport them. So how are you guys going to transport them? Are you guys going to have transportation? Are you guys going to be able to have Poverello or anybody go drop off the foods? Is there any stores or anything that they can get to? There's nothing but farmland. The freeway's not even for a little while. So you guys need to think about this. You guys are just housing the unhoused and you're putting them in a facility like a jail, like a prison. What about the people that's already been incarcerated or already been to boot camp or something and now you're sending them back there as a shelter? It's not going to be good for them. Also, I want to talk about the drugs. The drugs in our shelter, the drugs on our streets is ridiculous. The other day, my dog almost died because my dog ate somebody's drugs, okay? I couldn't take him to the vet to get his stomach pumped because I ain't got over $1,000 to do that. You guys after my dog ate somebody's drugs, the next day there was a sack that was dropped right in front of my door. We need to get the drugs off the streets and off out of the shelters. Like it's that serious. Like I could walk down the street and see people doing drugs. Like that's not okay. Either get the drugs off the streets or put them in a facility like LA has, where they all do their drugs in a facility to where nobody can see them, less chance of people dying. You know what I mean? Miguel, get the drugs off the streets. I know you can hear me. Anyways, so yeah, back to the Elkhorn Carruthers thing. We need to seriously think about it, you guys. This is serious, bro. Real serious. We can figure something else out instead of placing them all the way out there where there's nothing, literally nothing but farmland. What are you gonna do? Turn them into farmers and now have them all grow their own food? Come on, you guys. I guarantee you Poverello's not going to keep driving out there. Thank you.
Up next is MW.
I really wish the council members would have extended some gratitude for all the unpaid labor that comes from the form of public outreach from the turnout of last meeting and the meeting today. So much work was put into telling people about the misdemeanors and failures from the HEART team and the Fresno PD, and it went straight over your head. Thanks for that. Voting to move forth with the ordinance without indulging in the popular pleas of rent-controlled housing shows that you have no intention of taking us seriously. There's data that indicates that most common housing problems in Fresno, regardless of tenure type, are unaffordable housing costs. These discussions, the vote, and the move to publicly endorse should not have happened without the housing advocates and the community members that are most vulnerable in the room with you. It's clear that you guys made this decision without them in the room, and they're here now, providing you solutions, giving you data, talking about personal experiences. Nothing? Okay. Your response to 76% of Fresno households with a housing problem that are spending more than 30% of their income on housing costs is increasing FPD's budget of $52 million to sweep people their belongings, issue fines, and incarcerate? You're not even willing to have open conversations about the failures. Why are we talking about this ordinance? You've already voted yes. You vote on prohibition of encampments as accountability to homelessness. Without addressing the root cause is the lack of affordable housing. I don't want to have this conversation about rejecting encampments and increasing budgets. I want to talk about rent control and I want to talk about affordable housing. That's what Fresno needs.
Thank you. Up next is Alicia Simpson-Sanchez.
This is like the first time I've ever done anything like this or spoke, but I do feel that the anti-encampment movement will be more harmful for the unhoused community. I work for a program that serves the unhoused community. They link them to services, they provide them support, and they help assist them. I do understand public businesses, open use in public, camping at schools, things like that. I can understand coming and asking them to leave. But criminalizing our homeless who are already at their lowest is not going to be the answer. The answer would be, maybe working with services such as the program that I work for, or other programs that have outreach teams that are willing to come out and provide the referrals and link the services and assist them and then allowing for that time to go through so that they are able to be connected. If that would be the answer, then there would be more support. I think that maybe more teams working together to provide the support that the unhoused community needs would be the answer to public use. You know, we understand people are using in public. If there was support, maybe services that connect them to a treatment program should they need it. A lot of unhoused community members that my team serves don't know that they can go into treatment with Medi-Cal. They don't know that they don't have to have identification to get into treatment. And then a lot of them are not addicts, but just down and out or can't afford to make a difference. So there's other services to be connected to. I just think that if the community would work to connect them before they criminalize them, we might be able to stand a chance to make a big change in Fresno. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next is Pauline Verdugo. The mic, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm 57 years old. I'm in West Care through a housing disability advocacy program. I moved into 3336 East Clinton, 2-bedroom through West Care, the housing disability program. And I did my research to see what was available to me through this program. I have been bullied through this program. My life has been a living hell for the last year. They use their position to intimidate me. I'm not at peace. I'm stressed out because they come and go whenever they want, and they want me to move out without providing me with assistance for permanent housing. When I first moved there was no furniture. I didn't even have the access to the mail key, and I got denied in-home supportive service. And for months and months, I would ask for them and requested. I did request a bed because I need adjustable bed because of my health. I have renal cell carcinoma on my right kidney. I have a failing liver and tumors on my pancreas. And so my body gets with fluid, so I asked for an adjustable bed. Took 4 months, and then they tell me to get verification, which is against, it's unlawful for them to ask me for verification of my disability. And I still haven't got to receive a bed through that, through West Care. I don't know where their money's going to because I've been there for a whole year, and I think that what they bought me was underwears, and they didn't even fit me because I couldn't even pick what underwears I wanted. They picked them for me. And it's just sad the way they have this position that they have, and they're really abusing it. They're not uplifting like their mission says they have uplift their spirits. They're just tearing people down, and I'm just glad that okay. That's it.
You have 1 more minute, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
You have 1 more minute.
Oh, do I? They entered in my room while I was in the hospital and searched my room, and when I was in the hospital, they told me that I couldn't come back to the apartment because they didn't have a safe place for me. Let's see what else. And they're in violation of quite a few codes. They're not in compliance with their HDAD program. And I don't know where this money's going to because when they did get the furniture, it was used furniture from Wings, which I'm not complaining, but they told me to wait month after month for furniture, like if they were going to buy it because it was at the fiscal year. But when they finally got the furniture, it was used and it was donated from a program called Wings. So what was the procrastination on them getting a chair and a table when they didn't even buy it? And it's just totally wrong what they're doing with this. I don't know where the money. I talked to Laura Miranda, and she told me to go on hospice to get a bed, adjustable bed, because her dad.
Thank you very much. Up next, we have Paul Elizondo.
Do I get to show my posters or not?
You can hold up your poster.
You can put them on the camera?
You can hold up your poster if you'd like. Your
Can't
3
put 'em
minutes
on the
has
camera?
begun.
Peace be with you. The Lord is my strength and my defense. The broken record. That one over there. It says, a broken record. Are you really helping the victims of homelessness, or are you just helping yourselves using the homeless as victims to the color of code extortion, the New World Order? The government has given you guys $1 billion, $1 billion, and that caused greed because you don't want to let go of that money. You're making it a loop, a loop. That's why I say this is nothing but a big facade here. You guys strategically and methodically figure out a way to keep that money in your pockets. Make it look like you gave it to the homeless, but you actually keep it in your pocket. I'm a retired federal government investigator, inspection, and I am upset because the same thing every day I come to this meeting, it's the same thing with the people, the same problem, and you guys aren't doing nothing. You guys were bought off by Jerry Dyer when he gave you 72% of your wages. That's why you guys are bought off. It's a exclude agenda. You wear your brand new suits, but you don't do nothing new. You're helping yourselves. You're greedy. You're sick. Just like Jerry Dyer, the liar. Where is he? He's hiding somewhere. The murderer, the child molester, the guy that uses drugs, steroid king, the guy that assaulted me. Where is that coward? I call him a coward because he is. He turned his back on God, and I know that he's a coward. I call him crocodile tears.
Do you wish to speak on an agenda item?
It is an agenda.
Which
He's a leader.
state the agenda item, please.
He's called himself a leader. I know you don't like me. I know you don't. I was here first. I should have been on first. But no.
We have others waiting to speak on agenda items.
Powers illegally.
So we're going to go ahead and move on.
I'm going to file a complaint on you for.
Up next is.
My name is Zachary Farrell. I live in District 2. A few months ago, the United States Supreme Court waged a war on the idea of cruel and unusual punishment against the homeless, specifically in Grants Pass, Oregon. The ruling was that it was unconstitutional for the homeless to be camping, standing, lying, and sitting in public. Well, this is the fight that we are fighting over today. The question is whether or not we offer help before giving the homeless a misdemeanor for not having a place to stay. It's clear to me that you guys do not want to offer any help at all to the most vulnerable of us. This is a healthcare issue. I just want to remind you guys that the #1 cause of homelessness in the United States is not drug use, but rather medical bankruptcy. The governments all around this country are extremely wasteful with their money, including Fresno. We spend about 40% of our taxes on healthcare. Yet the #1 cause of bankruptcy is excessive medical bills. The way you are treating people, especially the homeless, is cruel and very unusual. It shows a huge lack of empathy. I'm not religious, but for those of you who are, I want to remind you of how Jesus helped those in society who were outcasts. Do you remember the story of the Good Samaritan? Or do you remember the woman at the well? Or do you remember the woman who was caught having an affair? I could go on and on. I hope today and whenever you go about your lives, you show compassion to the least of us. We need it. You need it. Please do the right thing by not passing this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Up next is Kaylee Van Schiffel.
It's Kylie, and I'm here to speak on the 2Y. I extremely disapprove of this ordinance. No lie, no sit, no sleep, no sitting. Really, in this heat, even as a young person, I cannot stand being out in this heat, and I need to take a break sometimes. Does that make me a criminal? You want to incarcerate our most vulnerable communities. You want to hide them in jails where they're forced to work for cents an hour and expect to thank you for cleaning up our streets. You don't want to help the unhoused. You want to hide them. You want to exploit them. You're slapping a Band-Aid on a severed artery. By passing this ordinance, you're saying that our unhoused communities are disposable and their lives don't matter. This targets our black and brown communities. This targets our queer communities, the disabled, the elderly. This affects everyone. Stray dogs belong in the street. You allow that, you support that, but are unhoused, they belong in jails. Make that make sense. People want help. People want safety, hygiene, shelter, food, water. They just need the resources provided to them. This ordinance is not the way to go.
Thank you. Up next is Rachel Tuggy.
I'm also speaking on item 2Y, as the overwhelming majority of people here have been today.
Please
I've been
continue.
horrified to see the city's attempt to pass this ordinance change. I'm not alone in this. In the previous city council meeting, there were 4 hours of objection from the public. And that was just from Fresnans who are aware of this effort or had the ability to take time away from their jobs or other responsibilities. I think many people realize that this would be both unjust and ineffective. Encampment sweeps and public space use restrictions are nothing new in California, but homelessness has not been resolved. Instead, it is only increasing. California continues to have the highest rate of homelessness in the nation, and Fresno itself has one of the highest rates in the state. Clearly, criminalization and shuffling people around is not effective. As a quick summary, this ordinance states that no person may sit, lie, sleep, or camp in public at any time. So no sleep and no rest. Violation is a misdemeanor. Upon conviction, this can mean imprisonment of up to 1 year and or fines of up to $1,000 per violation. Additionally, the time of storing personal items taken at the time of confrontation has been reduced to 60 days. This ordinance would resolve absolutely nothing about our current housing crisis, creating a vicious and ineffective cycle with either punishment. A jail sentence will further impact someone's ability to find employment and housing on multiple levels. A fine will only add to financial burden, making stable housing that much further away. Additionally, ongoing confiscation and destruction of personal items will disrupt and delay unhoused people's efforts to work on their situation. We need to actually address this in an effective and just manner. Also, in my e-comment, I focused on why this is a violation of the 8th Amendment in 2 ways. This would be cruel and unusual punishment, and these would be excessive fines. Everyone needs sleep, and in lieu of enough shelter beds, which are in short supply, what are the options? This will create an endless cycle of punishment for an unavoidable need. Additionally, excessive fines applies, regardless of how you interpret it, as the fine is neither justified nor within an unhoused person's ability to pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Giannis Palos.
Good morning, council members. I know, see how I'm deteriorating? My name is Jonas Palos. I advocate for the unhoused veterans throughout the United States. Straight grassroots, homegrown right here. I was one of those, okay? Ill, concussion, doctor blinds my eye, battling, and actually I got beat up on the streets, and I was living with my parents. They didn't know what to do with me. They don't have anything for us athletes. So I assimilate to these veterans with my traumatic brain injury, and I was shot on the streets of Fresno also. See, I'm disclosing everything to you. Police, I hope they have training now. Back then they didn't, and I still train them for autistic, people that are deaf. They can't hear you when you tell them to put your hands up. And this ordinance, please, I'm sure you heard, I know you guys love veterans. Okay, today's my birthday. My wife did not want me to come here because I scream at night. We're losing veterans. It's a shame. You know what I mean? They come home to nothing. And I hope you guys take this. You know, you heard of 22 a day, right? We lose a veteran every hour. And I'm trying to save them. I fell off in 112 and I have a home. That's how brutal this heat is. And I was a professional athlete. And I'm deteriorating because I love these people. And I'm going to fight for them till the day I go. Because you know what? 11 years without the government, I have succeeded. I can get them into a place, even a private place. So please, let's work together. We've succeeded before. And have a heart, because I cannot believe it. A veteran getting $1,000 after serving the nation? That's not going to work out well. They are an angry bunch. Thank you for your time.
Up next is TJ Shelton.
I hope that some of you really understood what Des did in her demonstration. Some of us heard names, voices, right? They heard the names of people while those sounds were clinking and dropping. You guys sit in in a high place handing out extra handcuffs so you can use the change the chains 13th to lock up people, when literally, as the lady said earlier, the policies of this organization and not having the fortitude to defy Caltrans or the state with regards to people camping under overpasses when they use an excuse that it's threatening the structure to sweep them from there. People are seeking shade. You created the problem that moved them out into private areas. You created the problem by not allowing them to congregate where they wanted to congregate in shady places. You look for excuse to move people around and create situations, and now you want to empower your officers to be able to accost people, and it's really disgusting. It's a shame. And you don't listen. I've been here before. I've talked here before. It's been a while. I don't think I've been here since you were here there, Annalise. I think last time I saw you was at a listening session at a home over in your district. Thing is criminalizing living beings because they don't have your level of affluence and capabilities is not beneficial. There's no reasoning to so vaguely give your officers extra latitude. They don't need it. If they were really breaking a law, committing a crime, doing something to harm somebody, impeding traffic, any such thing, you already have the ability to cause them to move. The money that you've spent on the heart sweeps, you guys caused that problem. That whole budgetary surplus could have been sitting there to do something different. The $100,000, $80-something thousand per hotel room to make them individually metered. You guys changed the electrical services in these hotel rooms to make them individually metered. What for? You have intentions of renting them out in the future and want to be able to pass that money along to the tenant? I'm not sure, but it sure isn't the move of somebody who's trying to economically help in the situation. We live in a nation where this oligarchy still owns half of the 9 western states. Like the other lady said, we have land, we have available land. We could much more economically help people to be able to live and exist in ways where they don't have to check into your rat race, because not everybody wants to.
Thank you. Up next is John Brown.
I thank you kindly, Fresno City Council. I beg the pardon of the civil Yokuts tribes who rightfully own this land, and God bless the transgender veterans. I am John Brown of the Free Press community, John Brown's Body Cam. I am a passionate abolitionist and believe all modern forms of slavery are an utter violation to God and to the Declaration of Independence, be they slavery of color, gender, sexuality, or class. In the last 6 months, my press colleagues and I have had the privilege to speak with numerous unhoused American citizens in the Fresno metro area. I would ask that Mr. Arias add 6 journalists to the growing list of the only individuals who have done more outreach than little old him. I would ask a question of this council. Y'all have been asked before. Do y'all support law and order? I ask this because 2 Mondays ago, this council described a wild, apocalyptic wasteland within the city limits. Is there a law for defecating on the street? Is there a law for littering, illegal drugs, vandalism, fires, breaking windows? If there ain't laws for these things, y'all better do y'all job and make laws for those illicit activities. But that ain't none of what this ordinance describes now, is it? It's about sleeping, sitting, lying down, and camping. Now, why is that? Y'all don't seem able to describe what's so scary about those things. Y'all are sitting right now. Y'all don't seem too scary. So what is it? Y'all say this law will only be used against the most egregious, evil homeless. Y'all don't get to make that call. Our Constitution gives equal protection of the law if y'all read it. I ask again, do y'all support law and order? The freedom of movement doctrine is well established by the United States Supreme Court. This beautiful country gives the right to travel and assemble throughout the state. My understanding is none of y'all are slave owners. Y'all have a habit of losing taxpayer money with rash decisions, from the Measure P case to the hacker ransom to, well, we'll not say too much about Bitwise. Your voters may question if losing money is just the cost of y'all's business. There have been times in this beautiful country when hateful folks said hateful things like, oh, you're free now, boy? Well, we'll purchase a nice prison in Carruthers. We'll take care of that. You better move along now, boy. It's sundown. We can take care of that. Hateful folk who talk like that and hateful council members who legislate like that need to be reminded y'all lost the Civil War and you lost the Civil Rights War. I would encourage this council to correct the failure to its unconstitutional activity and to obey the law. Thank y'all for your time. God bless the Union. God damn the Confederacy. And God bless the trans vets of the United States of America.
Up next is John McCubbin. Good morning. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning. 3 minutes is certainly not enough time to solve the complex multi-causal factor of homelessness. So I don't want to talk about that. I think it falsely frames the issue. But do you really want to criminalize some of the successes of Trolley Park? Because you're literally making that a misdemeanor for a kid to be sleeping on a sidewalk in a stroller, or a kid that's tired of playing in Trolley Park going to sleep in the shade. So this seems to be overbroad, but rather than getting into that, I would prefer to see the police resources that are guided into this being used to increase traffic safety in Fresno. Walking over here from down Mariposa Mall, there were 6 motorcycle units here, seemingly protecting from free speech. I'd like to see those guys out on the street, because to me, the danger that I face on a daily basis is the bad driving practices here in Fresno and the lack of enforcement in that. Thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
I'd request that you pull this. I think it's a bad but number Y2 needs improvement.
Thank you. Up next is Brighton Tompkins.
I was going to say, I haven't seen you in a really long time, Andrew Jans, but we met before in Sanger. But you were one of the first people that I voted for, actually. So it's really cool to see you again. I remember one of the discussions that we had was on the subject of housing, and specifically, it's an issue that's been important to me for a very long time. And when it comes to the homeless, I think that both the Fresno Housing Authority and the Madera Fresno Continuum of Care all suggest using a housing first model as opposed to many of the transitional housing models that we see with the current shelters. There is actually one housing first model Turning Point shelter. It is very small though, and I think it only has a capacity of about 12. I think that one of the issues that we see with finding these more ideal housing situations is it is really difficult to fund. Like Housing First, I believe you have to operate at a loss. And that requires more tax dollars, and transitional housing models are more affordable and you can have more of them, which means you can have more shelters. And it's a very complicated issue, and I don't want to pretend I don't understand that. I think that there are a lot of competing needs from both the people who have businesses and who don't have businesses, and that of the unhoused community. I do think that in general, I try to assume best intentions from everyone, and I don't think that anyone is specifically looking to make anyone's life like horrible, right? And so my hope is that, I don't know, I think when I am done leaving this city council meeting, I would like to reach out to all of the council members to have discussions with them to better understand their perspective, because I think I don't want to just assume that everyone is trying to out to get everyone. Hopefully that's not the world we live in, right? At least that's the hope. Anyway, that's all for me.
Thank you. Up next is Sarah A.
Mr. Bredefeld, I would like to address this to you because I feel like you are the individual that needs to hear this the most. There was an article that I read I'm going to get closer so I can read this. I'm not from Fresno, and when I moved to Fresno 3 years ago, I was told north of Shaw is great. South of Shaw, watch out. I did not understand what that meant. I'm a runner. I go to the parks locally here in Fresno, and they're right. South of Shaw, it's nothing but unfortunate individuals that I come across that, no, they're not druggies. They're individuals that are just stuck in a broken system. I sit there and I talk to them. I'm not intimidated by any of them because they actually have more heart than you. But here's my concern. When you sit down and you speak to these people and you talk to them, and one person tells me, my house was on a fire and now I lost my paperwork, and it's all just technical things with paperwork. I don't have an address. I don't have a P.O. box. How does that individual get their person or themselves out of that situation? I have seen so many people struggle with mental health. You can't control that. That's something from God. When someone is struggling with mental health issues such as schizophrenia, what do? Aren't you supposed to provide them with help? Don't you think our city would look better if you put up a model that was a model for other cities? A title read, we all know who Joe Rogan is. Mayor fires back after Joe Rogan calls Fresno's homeless situation depressing. Well, this is what Joe Rogan doesn't know. Fresno's homeless situation is depressing because you refuse to listen to them, even when they come in here with their children. Even people that are not homeless, like myself, come in here and try to advocate for them. Don't you roll your eyes at me. Can you listen? Instead of acting like a little child and rolling your eyes and walking out whenever somebody tries to talk to you. I know it's hard, but listen, okay? It's really simple. You have the money. You're not giving it to the homeless like you should. You're giving it to your friends on the north side of Shaw to keep their neighborhoods nice and clean, while people over here can be housed. How much does it cost the city to go ahead and imprison them for a year? How much would that cost the city? How much would it cost the city to give somebody housing for a year? والله يا مخنوث بن المخنوث لأنت تسمع الكلام يا بزنوة بن الزنوة أنك بتسمع or oh I'm sorry that's Arabic I must be a terrorist let me speak in English you coward listen to your people instead of your damn dickhead.
Up next is Katie Myers.
I was here for the first time in June, or excuse me, July 29th, and I listened to community members speak in opposition of this proposed ordinance change for hours. I also spoke for the first time in this place, and I asked you guys about evidence-based practice because that's something I work in the medical field. I've worked in Fresno for 16 years. I'm a full-time employee. I took PTO off. PTO, paid time off, to be here on July 29th, and I've done the same today. And that's a privilege that I have, that I can do that. I'm also sacrificing my PTO to be here. So it's not because I'm don't have a job and I just have nothing else to do. I'm here because I care about this community and the population that lives here. And I just have to say, it was really, I listened the whole time, and then I listened to this council vote 7-0 in favor of the ordinance change. And I can only take from that the voices of your constituents don't matter to you. And I will let you know, we are drafting notices of intent for recall for council members that vote yes on this ordinance. Your title does not make you a leader. Your integrity, your example, your empathy, your behavior, and your actions do make you a leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next,
Quentin Price, District 7. I'm here, obviously, with everyone else here. Have y'all been listening? Serious question for every one of you to answer. Have y'all been listening, and what have you heard? Anything? Can you answer at this point? Is that allowed within these chambers? What have you heard so far from your constituents about all the ordinances today? Anything? It's pretty obvious what these people want. What everyone in this city wants, besides maybe a few developers and a few business owners that maybe came to you in a back room and told you what they want, You have anything to say for yourselves? Are you going to vote yes on this? That's a good question. You are? Yes, obviously. Anyone else? The people that consider themselves Democrats or whatever, it doesn't matter, obviously, because at the end of the day, if you represent your constituents, you would listen to them. If you represent the people that are most in need of support, you would support them. The people that I work with at a school are sometimes disabled. They sit down constantly because they're in a wheelchair. Are they now a criminal for existing? How about the students that are disabled because they're mentally unwell enough to not be able to receive help from others? Do they also deserve to be criminalized? Are you listening? We will recall every one of you, except Gary, because you're terming out, obviously. You're becoming a council member at the county, right? We'll recall you there. Don't worry. And your psychiatry degree, psychology degree, regardless, you are not fit to practice because obviously you don't support the people that need mental health services. You're actively working against them. Anything else to say about yourselves?
I'm going to ask the audience to refrain from speaking out of turn. Thank you.
They can speak. They speak for me. Y'all don't speak for me. And the people that aren't here now, Nelson, Miguel Arias, where did he go? Where's our mayor? Yeah, he's going to be recalled also. Yeah.
That concludes.
Next up, we have Ariana Castellano.
I'm here to address item 2Y and ask for this ordinance to be vetoed. My name's Ariana, and my mom and cousins are homeowners here in districts 1, 2, 5, and 6. My mom rents our old house out for affordable prices because this market is insane. We are increasingly frustrated that myself, my family, and other community members are doing the bulk of the work to address the need that you all continue to ignore. I helped take care of my grandma with dementia, and she almost lost her housing in Fresno due to forgetting to pay rent until we stepped in. I'm calling in from her house right now, and it's the reason, partly, that I can't be there in person. My grandma owned a storefront across the street from Castillo's when I was growing up, so I'm surprised to hear you all boast to care about taxpayers when you waived millions in developer fees for Amazon, Ulta, and Taco Bell. In fact, small businesses in Southeast Fresno did not benefit from the $10 million of fee waivers for developers that you have issued in the last decade. You mentioned actions in the last meeting taken for housing, so let's break down the numbers. The progress report for the Housing Element Implementation Plan shows 12,000 units remain to be built, and 9,000 of those are for low, very low, and extremely low income housing. Specifically from 2015 to 2023, for above moderate income, the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, with 11,000 and 14,000 units were reported built. That's 3,000 more than needed. For moderate income, the RHNA was 3,500, 1,000 units have been reported built, and 2,000 units remaining to be built. For low income, the RHNA was 3,200, 496 units have been reportedly built, with 2,790 units remaining to be built. For very low income, the RHNA was 5,600 units, with 1,160 units reported and 4,500 units remaining to be built. For extremely low income, the RHNA was 2,830 units. So far, only 189 units have been reported, with 2,644 units remaining to be built. Over the span of 8 years, these numbers are interesting because it's obvious that extremely low income allocations don't seem to be a priority over the above moderate income RHNA. When ironically enough, the upcoming 2025 budget includes a sister city allocation of $85,000. This is the program on which you all, City Council, plus some city staff, took a $50,000 trip to Germany in August, supposedly to find ways to address housing, and a $29,000 trip to Vienna, France the year before, that money also coming from taxpayers. Good urban planning recognizes when a solution that has been implemented is not working. It's clear the HEART team and this proposed ordinance are not in line with the demands of the community based on the feedback you have been given. Research shows it costs taxpayers $31,000 a year to criminalize a single person experiencing homelessness, while the yearly cost for providing supportive housing is $10,000. If there are 4,000 unhoused folks, it would cost $120 million a year to jail them, while it would only cost $40 million a year on average for Housing First model. That's a third of the price. Mayor Dyer said the budget is facing a $47 million deficit, and he asked each city department to cut 3% of their budget, except police.
Next, we have Tracy Robertson.
Good afternoon, City Council, and I thank you, Councilman Arias. I know you're on Zoom, so everybody that wants to know where he is, he's on Zoom. And I thank him because if he wasn't on Zoom, I wouldn't be able to be on Zoom because they have just voted to cut out Zoom. So thank you. I just want to throw out some words. There are apartments in Fresno. There are available apartments in Fresno. I have been around, I am on waiting lists, and there are certain apartment complexes that don't want to house certain segments of the population, and they use certain tactics, redlining tactics and other illegal tactics to keep people out. The issue of income has come up when I have applied for apartments, and where I come from, there are apartments available for any income that you, income level that you are on, whether it's zero income or whether it's a luxury income. There is housing, and the same is going on here. There is housing. City Council, you guys need to get together with all the factions in this town and cut this mess out. The governor has threatened to pull funding to all the cities who are not housing people. You have this 2Y thing, which is insane, and it is criminalizing people. It's targeting populations. I have some relatives that have been targeted, that have mental health issues, and they're not being afforded in the proper way mental health services, and they are not being housed. Yet the money seems to be coming in and going to the same groups of people, and I can't complain too much because I live in one of these shelters and they may put me out for speaking up, but I'm going to do it anyway. But the money seems to be going to the same people every time, the same 3 groups every single time, and it is just a revolving door. So there are gatekeepers there are case managers that don't case manage, there are people losing apartments, like that lady said she's being bullied, and when she returned from the hospital, her room was ransacked. I happen to know some veterans who were thrown out of transitional housing because they had a heart attack, had to stay in the hospital at least 2 months. When they came back, people had broken in and ransacked his unit, and then he was thrown out for being untidy, and it wasn't his fault. He also lost some of his veterans' monthly income because they raided his account, and he couldn't account for the funds, even though he provided proof that he was in the hospital. They said he was liable for the funds, and so he lost 2 months of income and was out on the street living in his car. Anyway.
Next, we have Shar Thompson.
I'm Shar Thompson, the Central Valley Regional Coordinator with Tenants Together. I'm a mother that looks to a bright future built on collective decisions made for the city, and now a transitioning constituent member of District 3 to District 1. I'm here to stand here today with the other advocates and constituents that are here in opposition of the Sit, Lie, Sleep ordinance. I believe that if you came up with functioning and proper programs to handle homelessness and housing issues, it would work. As a single mother, what would I have done if this was implemented when I was homeless? The same as other people. Live where you can without being criminalized for living in a society that we are forced to, where you are shamed or spoken about saying that you're probably mentally ill or on drugs. I was completely sober and pregnant while I was on the streets. We have given you the power to make the city run, and it's not running, just like math ain't mathing, because you are worried about who will look down on you during your next campaign. Look at the stats. The city has more tenants than landowners, and it's time for the people to turn and live. With that said, I'm unsure why there are so many Section 8 tenants that are being evicted when they are in fact covered by the Tenant Protection Act, why there are so many displaced tenants when we have an anti-displacement assistance program. The programs are not working properly, and they are not preventing the displacement of folks after fires or uninhabitable homes fill the tenants, yet the unit is to be rented again with just a slap of paint on the walls. I have I have reached out 3 times to get a meeting with the city manager about these issues, especially after the private meeting that Tenants Together had with our contracted lawyers from Immersion and Schenker that represent our people through the eviction protection program when we noticed evictions upticked on our statewide hotline in Fresno and placed pressure on the women from this firm to do the right thing, which saved a single mother of 5 from displacement. If there is ever a need to keep people housed, it's now. Start with implementing tenant protections and setting aside more funding to community land trust, nonprofits, or we the people will ensure that it is on the ballots to vote on by the people. Take the Newsom advice and build for medium, low income, and extremely low income and implement some true wraparound services with people that truly know how to work with the vulnerable population. I seriously caution that before you improperly add another ordinance that you truly look at the causes and effects of how it will manage with the rest of your programs that continue to manufacture homelessness. Like Miguel said, the city of Fresno is in business of homelessness and at his and Luis's town hall with SEIU. So I understand why this is being pushed. Vote no on this ordinance for now. Work with the community to ensure that the programs are implemented properly. Families with children should be housed with the stipulated time of this, if this ordinance is passed, and not torn apart. Children shouldn't have to feel poverty. And if we have a great city and 60% of our district children are homeless, so just remember that stat. We are, and if we can, we would work together as one Fresno. Thank you for your time.
Next is Lisa Flores.
Good morning. First off, I want to talk about 2G. You guys remember that you guys were all elected with labor's help, so I anticipate that you will vote for your constituents in labor. 2Y, really? It's a sad day in Fresno, and I know St. Francis of Assisi is weeping because you guys don't know how to take care of dogs, and you definitely don't know how to take care of humans. Now, on 2Y, you have an issue with an equal application of the law. So think about this. Miss Little Queen of the Dog Park, you know me, goes into Roding Park, into Puppy Love Park, and wear the clothes I typically wear, which I pretty much look like I'm homeless. I go sit at the picnic table and I fall asleep just because it's a beautiful fall day, and now I get a ticket. Think about that, guys. Equal application of the law. And also, too, you're going to have to change every single municipal code in the city regarding what happens on the at the park when people are sitting during the week, when they don't rent the space. Are all the kids that go to Chaffee Zoo and sit and have their lunch, are they all going to be fined? Are these school districts going to be fined? You know, they're transient population. They come in for a little while, they use up your resources at the park, and they leave. So are you going to fine all those kids? And 2Z, I called Gary's office and I called Nelson's office the other day when I got my large print agenda item, but I did not get the language of this, to ask for information of what that says. And it was sent to me electronically. Thank you, but I can't read it. And nobody called me back. So, you know, Gary, when I call your office for some information, I actually really would like information instead of avoidance. It's not a good look for you, being the man of the people, and especially since you might be my future supervisor. Yes, that's right. I moved into that district. You know, Mike Karboski's district. Anyhow, you guys... the bottom line is you had $400 million to use on the issue of homelessness. And what did you do with that money? There are no policies and procedures that I can find, because I've been asking for them for years now in regards to the process and the procedure. And stuff could have been worked out where you would not have this problem anymore, or you would have it so lessened you wouldn't need a municipal code. So think about this. Think about, you know, your failure in this system as well. Because right now, I just see lawsuits.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Alvarado. I am a community organizer with Faith in the Valley here in Fresno. We strongly oppose the sit, lie, sleep ordinance, 2Y. To council, it is extremely disheartening to see the unanimous vote. And to community that's listening, to community that has been making comment for weeks and talking to your neighbors and friends, thank you for your amazing and strong and inspiring stories. This experience of making a 2 to 3 minute comment to council is disrespectful, demeaning, insensitive, and extremely harmful. To community listening, let this experience and final vote move you to care and support. Let this experience move you to lean into community. We can make the change on our own, and we can do this together. If you saw someone comment on something that you care deeply about, go and introduce yourself. We have to do this together. Together, we can make change. Together, this can be possible. And just wanted to send love to everyone listening and everyone in that council today. You are important, and you are cared about, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is James Rutledge, and I agree with most of everything that has been said, pretty much has been brought, so I don't really have anything new to say. The only thing I really want to ask for is if we could just take more time and consideration in what we're doing with this. I personally was somebody who helped Greg Barfield hand out the vouchers when we were doing that back in Mayor Sweareng's days, and I noticed personally that there is a huge gap in understanding of what the problems and the issues are out there between the people that are out there and the people that make these rules. If you guys could just take time before actually finalizing anything to make sure that we're getting an end result that we want, that's all that I'm asking. Thank you.
Next up is Keith Scott.
This is Keith Scott from Gracebound, and I'm talking about the ordinance. I believe that if it's possible to maybe allow an adjustment to the ordinance, to maybe give some time, as the previous person said, maybe some time for, let's say, the FMCOC to work with you to maybe have a 2-stage or a 3-stage plan whereby you give the opportunity for us to work with those who want help, to assist them, and then after that time period is passed, then you go into the next stage, which would be taking them off the streets and doing what you need to do with them. But those who need help, we can work together to help them out. Maybe a certain time period to do that. That would be my thought, as been heard by many here, and have been said by a lot of people here, that we need some more time to implement this change. Thank you.
All right, so that will conclude the public comment portion for this item. I just want to state something real quick. It appears 2Y is really broad in nature. I do agree with the community in that, and that's resulted in a lot of confusion. Much of what was stated today in the audience was inaccurate, but I understand because the language was vague, very confusing. And I think it sends the wrong message to the community as to what our actual intent is for this item. And I don't want that to dilute the good work that we have done here in the city for the unhoused community. I believe the intent was missed. And while I personally would like more time to work with my colleagues to better define the ordinance and to make it clear as to what exactly we are trying to achieve, I believe that the council as a whole is ready to vote on this today. And so with that being said, I am going to register. Sarah, you're being disruptive, please. This is the council's time. Sarah, that was your one and only warning, Sarah. Officers, please remove this individual from the council chambers. She is being disruptive, she's being disrespectful, and she is speaking out of turn. Please remove her from the chambers. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I do want to respect those that are, I do want to thank everyone that is being respectful. We gave you guys your chance to speak, and now it's our turn. Due to the vagueness of the ordinance, while I can respect the spirit of what my colleagues and I are trying to achieve, I think it leaves a lot of room for interpretation that may not be the intent, at least for me, for this item. And so I will be voting no on 2Y today. I will be watching this item closely if it is passed today to see how it is implemented in our city. And my commitment to my colleagues and to the community is that we will bring back amendments if needed to better serve this community. So with that being said, I will be casting a no vote for 2Y today. Council, is there a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar?
I'll second. Somebody.
Was that Esparza?
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, I'll second.
So I have a motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar. That motion was made by Councilmember Arias, and that was seconded by Councilmember Bredefeld. City Clerk, can you please do a roll call vote?
This is to approve the consent calendar. Councilmember Arias.
Aye.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Chavez, absent at the moment. Councilmember Bredefeld.
Yes.
Councilmember Esparza.
Aye.
Vice President Carbasi.
Yes.
And Council President Perea.
Yes.
All right, 6-0.